Welcome back to the commonly used Excel charts and functions video series. Today in lesson 25, we will cover the range H lookup. This is the same example that we used in lesson 23 when we covered the range VLOOKUP example, but this time we will be using the H lookup function. We have two tables on the Excel sheet. The one on the left consists of different exam scores for a class, and the table on the right is a letter grade assignment criteria table. We will be using this table to assign a letter grade to each student in the class in this empty column here. Now the first step is to set up our HLOOKUP table, and I'm going to paste a format to the right here for convenience purposes. Let's go ahead and fill in the table. I'm going to start with the scores row first. We are going to input the lower bound of each score range going from lowest to highest. So this first cell will be a 0, the following will be a 60, the next will be a 65, and so on. Then we can move on to the corresponding letter grades. This first cell will be an F, and this means any grade between 0 and 60 will be assigned an F. The next will be D, and Excel will interpret any score between 60 and 65 as a letter grade of D. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the rest of the letter grades. Now let's go and enter the function into our letter grade column. So I will type HLOOKUP and select it. You can see that there are 4 arguments in the function's syntax, the first being the lookup value. In this case, that will be the student's exam scores, and you can either select one value or the entire column. It's often easier to select the entire exam score column, so that's what we'll do today. The second argument is the table array, which is the entire lookup table without any titles or row headers, so let's go and select that. The third argument is the row index number from the lookup table that we are wanting to reference. Since we are filling out the letter grade column, we want the HLOOKUP function to return letter grades. So that means we will be using the letter grade row in the lookup table, which is the second row. So we will put a 2. Now the fourth argument you can see is in those square brackets, which means it's optional, so we actually don't have to enter anything. If we don't specify anything, the default is always true, which is good because true is always used for a range lookup or an approximate or appropriate lookup. If you do want to specify something, however, for a range lookup, you can always just type in true or 1 because 1 is equivalent to true. But just to keep things easy, I always leave that fourth argument unspecified for a range lookup. So I'll just press back to get rid of that comma, and then we'll do a closing bracket and press enter. Then you can see that letter grade column is filled out. Now in the previous video we covered a different type of HLOOKUP example called an exact HLOOKUP, and today we covered the range HLOOKUP. So let's just do a quick summary of both before we conclude for today. So in either case, for an exact or range lookup, if you sort the lookup row from lowest to highest, or A to Z, then you can always safely omit the last argument in the HLOOKUP function. You also might be wondering, if you watched the VLOOKUP lessons, which function is better to use, VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP? Personally, I prefer VLOOKUP because the vertical lookup tables are a bit clearer and more concise. But that concludes today's lesson where we covered the range HLOOKUP, and in the next lesson we will learn the XLOOKUP. Thank you for watching. See you next lesson.